So from a practical standpoint, um, okay, let's say someone has a strategy in place. Let's say they're doing a lot of content marketing, right? They're posting blog posts, they're posting them on LinkedIn. Um, they have an SEO strategy, and that's it's rising them in the ranks for certain keywords. Um, and let's see what else. Maybe they're doing some email, right? Some cold email outreach or some email nurturing. If you came into a situation like that, um, what practically should those business owners be looking or marketers be looking at to optimize that content strategy?
Absolutely. So there's two steps to it, really, big picture. The first is you have to map that out, and I like to actually draw it out,
Mm-hmm.
in a whiteboard type of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
What is the flow? How do we get eyeballs, and how do those people start to engage with us, move down the funnel? How do they fill out a form or make a purchase, et cetera? What are all the steps in the customer journey? And let's really map that out and show how they're connected or interrelated. So, for example, someone finds us on Google because they search, they click, they read a blog post. From that blog post, they read our products or services page. Then they decide to contact us. Now they're on
Mm-hmm.
our email. Now they get nurtured, etc. So that's the first step, is mapping that whole process out to see what are those touch points. Then the second step is looking at the
Mm-hmm.
data that you have to see where is the bottleneck. And there's two things to think about in optimization with bottlenecks. Obviously, you want to see how do people flow from one step to the next. But where you want to focus on is obviously first the biggest bottleneck. Where are people dropping off the most? Let's say that's people read your blog post, but then they leave and they don't ever explore the rest of your site. They don't ever contact you, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. That would be a good place to focus. The second, depending on your type of business, if you're more retail or B2C, would be closest to revenue. So for a lot of my clients, they're direct to consumer or B2C, and so there we focus on the checkout process itself because people are getting to the cart, they're getting to the
Mm-hmm.
checkout process, but then if they abandon there, they were right there, they're right at the finish line. And if we can optimize that and push them over the finish line, then we're not throwing away all that money, all that work to get them
Mm-hmm.
that far. So it's really what is the biggest bottleneck when you look at that customer journey? Where are people falling off the most? And or start closest to revenue and work backwards. Because any optimizations you make, the closer to revenue they are, the higher a benefit you'll have more immediately.
Yeah, that's great. And I think people listening to this are probably interpreting it all differently, what you're saying, because of the business they're in and what they're currently doing. What I'm hearing you say is really sort of a mechanism for getting rid of distractions and getting rid of the short term mentality by mapping it out, right? So you have clarity, and then and it's a good hypothesis if you don't really know what your buyers are doing to map it out because you have somewhere to start now that you can look at, and it's manual, and then starting at the end and working back up the process or the funnel that they've mapped out. And I love that because you can find some immediate return on those optimizations on the bottom of the funnel. And so it's sort of like you are pulling the sales lever a little bit, in your marketing strategy as you work your way back up. But then I would add on the top end, right, so that you have this long term approach at the same time and gets yourself out of the short term mentality. As you're working on those optimizations, go ahead and start implementing the few things that you think will work, if you don't know, or do more of what you know will work on the top end, on that top and middle of the funnel, so that you're doing these two things so that the top and middle can start to drive awareness and engagement while you're working on optimizations.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think you illustrate an interesting point that a lot of businesses struggle with, and even large businesses, but particularly SMBs, that they have this mentality that if we just get enough attention, if we just get enough traffic, if we just get enough eyeballs, we'll get some leads and some sales from that somehow. And that is completely untrue. And this is where you have to focus on the bottom up approach and really your ideal clients and where they're at and how
Mm-hmm.
to reach them. And so, an example here is Starbucks. I go to Starbucks a lot with my wife, and we were driving through the other day, and on the menu, before you order at the drive-through, on the menu, someone had pasted this lost cat sign. and it was a picture of the cat, and it said lost, call this number if you've seen this cat. And I thought, this is genius. Think about during the busy time, how many people drive through this Starbucks.
Yeah.
Hundreds, if not thousands of people are seeing this cat sign, but
Yeah.
they're all the wrong people, because I'm not going to get out of my car and look for this cat.
Hmm.
I probably haven't seen
Hmm.
the cat. I drove from my house to Starbucks and back home. So from an eyeballs perspective,
Right.
brilliant. But are they going to get any results from this?
Yep.
No. And this is how most people think about marketing: is let's just cast a wide net and get in front
Yeah.
of as many people as possible and hope that something comes from it.
Yeah.
And guess what? Nothing's going to come from it. I can guarantee you. And you can waste thousands
You are
and millions of
so
dollars
right.
and thousands of hours and lots of effort and stress trying to do that. So focus on the bottom up, as you said, and you'll have a much more higher chance of success.
So right, 100%. I think about that a lot, actually. How simple a concept that is, but how many people miss the fact that it doesn't matter if you have a lot of traffic to your website. It could be all the wrong people, right? Or any other platform that you're getting eyeballs from. Google Ads, right? You can spend a ton of money on Google Ads, and you just got scammed. I mean, the house won, right? Because
Exactly.
you didn't get anything from it because you're not targeting the right people, or you don't have the right offer, or whatever it may be. That reminds me of this, when I never watched the Super Bowl, but I heard enough about it that I knew it was happening. And the Coinbase had an ad, and I was talking with another friend of mine about it, who's into Bitcoin, and we're talking about, like, did that ad actually work? Because, well, part of the discussion was that their website went down, right, during the process there, which obviously shows that they had high awareness and high attention, right, which you're going to get when you have that many eyeballs, right. Um, but I kind of thought about it like it's sort of like Groupon, where you have a lot of small businesses get into this. I personally think Groupon's kind of a scam, because
Yes.
it really, it's like predatory lending, right? It focuses on the small business owner and says, hey, if you give us your product for a fourth of the price, we'll sell it for half the price, and then you get a bunch of customers who want stuff for half off, and then
Right.
they're never going to stick around, right? Because all they want to do is go to the next deal. And if I think there maybe is a 1% of business owners who really, if they strategically knew how to work that offer and retain some of that business, would could do something with it. But I think most of them just sort of get scammed, where they get a bunch of people through the door, overhead goes up, and they really didn't get anything for it. And I kind of look at that Coinbase ad as the same thing, where, okay, well, you got a lot of eyeballs there, and maybe you converted a lot of, I think there may be an article talking about conversion somewhere, but maybe you converted a lot of those people into customers, new customers that now have accounts. Okay, well, how many of those actually invested money, and how many of those are actually going to be here in a week or a month, or, I mean, so to me, I think it's such a glaringly obvious thing that owners and marketers should be thinking about, is who is our buyer, and are we putting this message in front of the right buyers? Because if we are, we only need five. We don't need 5,000, right? But I think big
Absolutely.
numbers make you feel like you're making progress, even though you're not.
It's so true. And this is a question I ask all my clients, which is, what does success look like? If this is successful, what will happen? What will that look like? And to your point, no one ever says, well, we're going to have 20 million people come to our website. That's not success.
Mm-hmm.
Success is, we're going to have more customers. They're going to spend more money with us. They're going to stay
Mm-hmm.
longer as a client. That's success. And so if that's what success looks like, if the answer to that question then dictates, how do we measure that, and what do we do to drive real success, not vanity metrics, not traffic, not a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. So understanding and focusing on what does success look like, and then, as we said, working backwards from that, how can we get that as fast as possible, as cost effectively as possible? That's all that matters. All this other stuff, like you said, Coinbase, I'm sure a ton of people know what Coinbase is now, but they probably don't understand crypto. They're probably
Mm-hmm.
not going to do business with it. They're probably not going to invest in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
They're just now aware of it. And maybe that's the first step for them because of the scale that they're at. But I don't think
Right.
so. I think a lot of people are
Right.
not an ideal customer for that.
Yeah, agreed. And the price you pay for that amount of attention at that level of the funnel, those economics could work out, right? Because I'm not saying that you have to have an ROI, right? You could say, I want to spend $15 million on a Super Bowl ad and know it's a lost leader. I mean, it depends on your business strategy, right? So I can't sit to say it's a bad idea or not. But I just think, thinking through that conversion process and what's the long term stickiness is something that business owners should be thinking about, right? Are they working with the right people? Are they going after the right people? I've talked to clients before that have clients on their book or customers on their books, and they're not profitable, but they're there, right? I think a percentage of effectiveness because they are contributing to cash flow, right? So they're helping them with cash flow when they bill them and they get money in, but they're either losing money on them or they're not making much money, and it's taking their staff's time and et cetera. So I always say, well, have you considered maybe just letting them go or firing them? Because that would really help you to free up the capacity of your team to go find people you actually want to work with. That you probably could meet through the people who are good customers. Um,
Right.
but I think all of that is very, very important.
People are afraid, yeah, to change the status quo or to let go of things, but it's necessary. Again, ruthless prioritization and a real keen focus. We have to be laser focused on what matters, what's going to drive results, and what success ultimately looks like. And we have to abandon and jettison everything else because it's just a waste of time and resources and capacity. And as a small business, you don't have much. And you and I, being, or at least myself, being a solopreneur,
Hmm.
I have no time. I'm too
Hmm.
busy serving clients and doing
Hmm.
marketing stuff myself. So I have to be very careful about where I spend my time. And small businesses are no different. We need to be very aware and careful of where we invest time and resources.